I see dead people.
Hot shit.
Here's Johnny.
Stop.
We have such sights to show you.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Fuck you too.
There is a dog wearing yellow rings for that side. Oh my god.
Don't you sometimes wish that you were that dog in the yellow ring on outside?
I want to be that dog so bad.
To live that life so freely.
There is literally the prettiest dog I've ever seen. And like, listen, I know everybody, it's like with babies, right? Everybody thinks their baby's like the cutest baby, even though some of them look like they've been run over by a train.
Yeah, some babies fugly.
Some babies are fucking ugly, and I think we should be allowed to say that. They grow out of it. A lot of them grow out of it.
I mean, you can't judge a baby for the adult that it's going to grow into, you know? Some babies just legit look like someone took like a grape and just like punched it on all its sides.
Yeah, they look like angry old men.
Yeah.
But like just born.
The House of Representatives.
Exactly. But there's this woman who lives near me, and she has this dog, and it's like a blonde husky.
Yeah.
With like the bluest eyes I've ever seen.
But it's seen those ones.
Yeah, it's not quite a husky though. I think that it's like a
it's
husky
probably
and
a mix.
Else.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a little bit skinny and like kind of and like shorter than a husky is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's literally the prettiest dog I've ever seen, and I'm just like every time I see it, I'm like
just enamored. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's the dog has like hypnotic powers or something.
I want you to remember that feeling. I want you to remember the feeling of seeing that dog and feeling so alive and feeling so, so excited for life. Because I feel like today I'm going to take a lot of those feelings away from you. Today I'm really gonna test those feelings. I'm gonna see how you do. Something I've realized, and just to get into the preamble pretty quickly here, I've re-listened to like all of your episodes, and like I'm not joking. Like I literally in the last month got done listening to all of us reading Mark's stories, which by the way, golf claps.
So
golf
good.
claps
Yes,
for Mark. I've reached out to him a couple times since to be like, when can we get a round 2 in this bitch? And he's been working on stuff. He's been radio silent. So I assume I'll get him when I get him at some point, but
yes, it'll come to you.
It's not going to stop me from sitting here and praising everything he's done, everything he's contributed, because truthfully, and even on that last episode where we read Duplex, Marcy Travels, Nana, all 3 of those stories hit. All 3 of those stories rocked.
They absolutely did.
That was after Amazing Bill Day. That was after, Long Wiry Boy and Zobelius the Ravisher and, full-size candy bars, I cannot begin.
Full-size candy bars was fucked, man.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, my observation of calling it Children of the Candy Corn is pretty astute.
Yes. Yes.
But I want to take the opportunity, to just recognize that the strength found in your episodes and the strength that I feel from our episodes, the camaraderie that we feel from our episodes, is half in part due to the stories we read together and the stories we pick, which I'll get into, and half because of you.
Oh,
we've been friends for like, close to 10 years now, and it's just like I don't think there's anyone else on this show that gives me as much enthusiasm as you do.
Oh, now I'm gonna cry. That's fine.
Well,
I
it's
mean, that's
fine
fine.
because I think I'm
That's
going to make you
fine.
cry for a different reason pretty shortly. Um, in my
Oh.
head, it's just like, and maybe the crying will help. Maybe if
The
anyone can't tell,
screaming.
both Cannibal Siren and I are sick. I have a little bit of a throat thing going on. She's got a little bit of a congestion thing going on. We're both just fucked, but we needed to get this out, so it's happening.
It is. We're so
We're both
dedicated.
trooping through it because
We're-
I have to butter her up. I have to lube her up before I absolutely fuck her in a couple
Yes.
seconds. So
Thank you.
so
Oh, that's so nice.
so listen.
I'm listening.
There
I'm ready.
there are things I will always remember loving about this show, and there are people I will always remember, giving me feelings about this show. Not that I'm looking to fucking nail the coffin or anything like that, but I am looking to get towards a point where I could like put it down for like a couple months at a time and like go fucking do something else. And I know that I'll be able to come back and ask people like you to be like, hey, you want to do something? Like every once in a while, like, just keep it alive. And I have a
Yeah.
feeling that you'll just always be like, yeah, I'm fucking down.
Oh yeah, brother. You know I will be.
And there aren't many people that are like that. There are a couple people who, I have to strong arm into doing this, and then there's a couple people who's just like their lives have led them in a different direction, and it's just like I don't I'm not judging any of that. We are all getting older. We are all on the same fucking rock hurling through space together. Whatever you want to do to pass the time to make yourself feel better about your life and the life you're living, more power to you. I like to read dumb stories that I found on the internet while often intoxicated or inebriated in some way.
Yes, as God intended.
I did take an edible before doing this, so I do hope it hits at the right time, but my medicine might also be fighting that from happening.
True. Yeah, I just took my meds as well, so I left my vape in the other room, so we'll see
Space
if I
weed.
start. Yeah, I love that shit.
So let me bring you down. Let me crush you for a second.
Okay, crush me with the mass.
Because your episodes are so good, like the apartment story series sits in the back of my mind as one of the most memorable things we've done.
I love
On
that one. That's
on
I
one
think my
hand,
favorite.
yeah, I mean, I love a lot of the shit we've read together. Like I think the first episode where we get into monster fucking, I think it's like 94 or 95 with the woman in
Yes.
white, like that episode just slaps. That episode is just like hitting a rhythm.
You know
I
why?
also
It's
love the
because
romantic,
monster fucking is
yeah.
amazing.
It's you. It is you. I
Aww.
tapped into something that I didn't even know was real, and it was you.
Oh, I gotcha. Oh, I gotcha. I love me some monsters. I love monsters. And monsters are having a moment right now, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
Like culturally. And I
Yeah.
mean, like societally we go through phases with like
Mm-hmm.
games go through phases, horror goes through phases,
It does.
and like creatures go through phases. And I'm really excited about it because we're in a Frankenstein phase right now.
Yes, we are.
And I'm really stoked about it because
Maggie
I don't think
Gyllenhaal
Frankenstein.
has a Bride movie
Yes.
coming out, and
Yep.
Guillermo del Toro has a remake
Mhm.
coming out.
Yup,
Yeah,
yep,
the
and we just got
classics are all coming back in
Creatures.
different ways. It was literally a conversation I had with a buddy on the previous episode to this one. So it's just like everyone is aware of it, and everyone I know that is loving it is someone I want on the show. So I'm glad that you're hitting that same vibe of let's
It's
fuck all
just
the
so
monsters.
fuck 'em, it's so fun. That's why I literally just sit down and write entire books about fucking
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So listen, we I also loved the Romantic Cabin series that we did. I just think that series was
Yes.
paced so well that it kept me on the edge of my seat. and I'm not downplaying anything else we've read. I've already given Mark, One Page Wonder, Stories to Read Alone at Night, a shout out. Like, I would say a lot of your episodes, almost all of your episodes, are like nearly flawless.
Yeah, they're really good.
I just think we've had a track record of reading really interesting shit. Now, that being said, the monsters in today's episode are going to fuck us in a different way, in a way that we don't
Ugh.
like. and I was
Oh.
inspired. I was inspired
Oh.
by I want to say her name was Angela at the end of the Apartment series, because
Yes, yes.
she stood out to us as like an ancillary villain, someone who
Yes.
kind of comes out of nowhere and strikes fear into the heart of many, and
She's
the
got
impression is left.
it's the slow moving inevitable. The
Slow
slow
moving
moving
inevitable. Yes, that is your categorical term for the thing that fucks you the most.
It's so scary. I feel like we've probably talked about this before in general, but like it's definitely a like visual, it's a very visual and physical representation of the human fear of death.
Yeah.
If we want to get into like, literary symbolism and shit
Yeah.
like that. Because, there's nothing scarier than something you can see and that's in no rush to come get you because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It follows,
Yes, yes.
Halloween, Friday the 13th,
Mm-hmm.
it's something they all have in common, because they know, much like you're saying, the metaphorical embodiment of death. It's
Yes.
going to get to you. You're going to
It
have to
is.
defend yourself at some point or another, or succumb to it at some point,
Mm.
regardless of choice, regardless of freedom, regardless of, in the face of fate, even. And
What was the name? The scary, scary stories to read in the dark. The Guillermo del Toro movie.
yeah,
It has
yeah.
the pale lady.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the
Yep.
embodiment of like slow moving
Slow
inevitable.
moving.
Like
Just
there's
everywhere you turn, she's right there. She's walking closer
right
to
there,
you, ready
and
to
she's
give you
taking her
that
time.
nice hug.
Yep, she's not in a rush
Big
because she
old
knows she's
smile
gonna
on her
get you.
face.
Exactly. Fucking terrifying.
Yeah, give that shout out to Steve Gamel, the artist, the illustrator for that book series,
Yes. Hey
for
Steve, you can.
ruining our fucking nightmares
Yeah. Hey Steve, you gave me so many nightmares as a
for
child.
30
Thanks for
plus
that.
years. Yeah, R.I.P. Steve. You were one of them. Um,
R.I.P.
yeah, the slow moving inevitable. I think that's really important,
Yeah.
because I'm just gonna read the title of the story today, real quick,
Okay.
to let everyone know what we're getting
I'm
into.
not nervous. I'm not nervous at all. I feel very strong and brave.
The man in my basement takes one step closer every week.
I no longer feel
I no
strong
longer,
and brave.
I no longer feel safe in this world.
I have changed my mind. I'm actually too sick to record now. I can't do it. It's so crazy.
Okay, so listen. The thing that hits me about that title, The Man in My Basement Takes One Step Closer Every Week, the thing that I think slaps the most about that title is that the person who wrote it is completely aware of it.
Yes.
Like, I think there's something to be said about the average human experience being like wholefully on purpose ignorant about death.
Uh,
You know, just kind of living your life saying like,
willfully
"Nah, that
avoid
ain't
it.
me."
Yeah.
And until like the moment it happens, and then there's probably, like the dopamine is released, and then you go, "Ah, it is me," and then you clock out.
Yeah. Exactly.
I just think the human experience is often ignorance, denial, whatever
Avoidance. Yeah.
avoidance, yeah, whatever it is, whatever floats your boat. on the mortal coil of saying that, coming to terms that death could be around the corner at any fucking time. And
And
here
it
we
is.
have, yeah, and here we have someone who's like, nah, death be in my basement. And not only that,
Mhm.
he getting closer.
Exactly. It's just well, also, like, people tend to be really afraid, I think, of, like, something in the house. I call it something in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something
The
in the
call is
house,
coming from
and
inside the house.
exactly, yes, the call is coming from inside the house, and because I mean, that's fucking scary. Nobody, our homes
Oh,
are our
hell
safe
no.
places,
Oh,
and at the end of the
hell
day,
no. I live
we're
out in the middle of
monkeys.
the woods now. I live in fucking strangers territory. You telling me that I am
Mhm,
setting my
mhm.
alarm, I am checking all of my locks every single night. I mean, I also have a vehement fear of bears. So it's not
You know
just people, like
what's funny about that too is, like, I sorry, this is gonna go slightly off topic, but, in, like, the 20 like, mid like, 2010 in the mid-2010s-ish, like, around 2016, we had, like, a hillbilly hell moment
yes.
in, like, scary games and in
Yes.
horror in general. Like, that was the fad, and it was just really funny because I grew up, super rural,
Yeah.
and so I'm always just like, hillbilly hell, like, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm just like, "Oh, no, that's Cletus. He busy, leave him
That's just
alone."
my neighbor.
Yeah, he's just chilling. That's my neighbor's son. He's a little strange, but you don't bother him and he won't bother you. He just likes to scrape the raccoons off the road and eat them. It's no big deal.
I
And,
thought
like,
you were
that's
going to
it.
say that there's a bear in my basement and it takes one step closer every week.
Oh, that would be fucking scary.
Wouldn't that be
That
something?
would that would be something,
That would
alright.
take a lot of my fears and combine them.
It sure would. And I mean, that's kind of what this sounds like, though. It sounds like it's like a combination of the slow moving inevitable, the call is coming from inside the house, like it's all of the worst things. Because we're chimps, we're monkeys. Monkeys like their house to be safe. We pick a place to settle
Yeah,
because
we
that's
got our
where we're the
nests.
safest.
Yeah.
Right. And so if something's in the nest, that's really bad.
Yeah. I think another part of it to me is also just like it's striking on what is casually under the surface for a lot
Right.
of people. Like we all know the stereotypes of like don't go into the basement,
Mhm.
when it comes to horror, and it's just like, well, not only do we know something is down there, but it's gonna come upstairs at some point because it is getting closer
Eventually,
to
yeah.
me. Like, I don't live in my basement, not anymore at least, but like it's getting closer every week, question mark. So that means it's gonna be, I'm gonna name part two of this story whenever we get to that. The man in my living room takes one step closer every week.
Oh,
The man in my
you can't.
hallway, the man in my bedroom. Now that hits me where I live because I just got a new bed and it's really comfortable and it's changed my life. And I would really, really hate it if there was a guy in there taking steps closer to me while I'm trying to sleep.
Dude, I already sleep so badly, and I'm like a pro insomniac. If I knew there was something in my house,
You'd never sleep
that's
again.
no, never again. And honestly, I would probably just burn the house to the ground. Honestly, like, in
Yeah.
all honesty,
And I think this
I
is this is hitting on your fear too because you like to avoid. You like to
hmm
tell things to fuck off. I was
do.
like crying laughing listening to your last episode because you were like, I'm actually starting my own show. It's called Ghosts Can Fuck Off or something like that.
Yes,
And you're
and
just,
they can.
and they can. So it's just, you're being told. It's already decided. It is in the house. You are aware of it. It's both of your nightmares, frankly.
Mhm.
And I'm glad
It
that you're
really
letting
is.
me do this to you.
It's fine. Everything's fine, and I'm
I
fine,
wanted
and
to
we're
make a
fine.
point just in saying that like, hey, we're getting towards episode 300. I haven't raised the stakes in a little bit. if we're going to read a series that's going to be, I don't know, like 4 parts long at this point,
Mhm.
I want to do something that's different. I want to do something that shocks us a little bit. I want to do something that raises the bar. As much as I love the monster fucking, I think we got comfortable.
You're right. So
It was
now we need to
safe.
terrorize me.
Yes, it was too safe. I was letting you live your wildest dreams.
Oh, so this is
And
what
now
the
you
people
must live your wildest
this
nightmare.
nightmares. This is what the people want. You were fans of the show, and they were like, they all texted you at the same time, and they were like, "Hey, Captain, we really need to fuck with this bitch."
No, no one said that. Everyone loves your episodes and they probably don't want me to change a single thing about them. But here I
Yeah.
am, walking to my tune, making us dance to a different beat. I think it's interesting. I think it'll keep us on our toes. I think
I think so
we'll get
too.
to see what it means to read something that actually has like a veiled threatening presence. Like even harkening back to that first monster fucking episode, like there was something off about the woman in white. Like
Yes.
yeah, we were down bad. You know,
Yeah,
we were
who's not
ready.
down bad?
We were ready, but it was scary.
It was so
There was an
scary.
element of it that was scary. And I would go so far as saying, you know, the romantic cabin getaway, the monsters that were in that, the like Wendigo-ish monsters also terrifying, and also
So scary.
Angela in the apartment series, like the most we're looking at monsters on every fucking floor in every corner, and the scariest thing to us is a woman on a staircase who just sits and stares at you.
Oh my god.
You know,
Yeah,
like
she was my fucking biggest op so far. So maybe this man in the basement will replace her. I'll have a new opponent to fight.
yeah, the man in my basement I think is going to take place of a lot of our like high key fears that we've expressed over the like fucking 8 years we've been doing this. You know, I think it's been a while since I've seen a title that hit me a certain way,
Yeah.
that made me say like, no, I need to read this because I think it'll actually do something to me. It'll actually reignite, you know, those creative juices that say like, no, it's okay to read scary shit again. I don't know the last time I read something that actually like scared me.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're like, I read something scary every single day.
I'm scared literally 24/7, so
Yeah, it's fair.
although I have to say my tolerance for scary shit is so much higher now than it was because I basically put myself through exposure therapy. But yeah, I am scared literally 24/7, so I have a feeling this is probably gonna
do
make my
you
day
do you still watch movies between your fingers?
a little. Who's asking? Who's asking? Who wants to fucking know?
It was just another thing you said on a previous episode, so I just wanted to call you out real quick.
Hey, I'm trying to impress the listeners, and you're making me look stupid. Now they're all
And you
gonna
know,
know I'm not an
it's
alpha.
the opposite of most people's problems too,
Oh
because most
really?
people here's what I'll explain just real quick. Most people have the opposite issue that you do, which
Oh
is
yeah.
they have no problem watching horror movies. They have problems playing horror games.
Oh yeah, no. For some reason, granted, can I play a horror game? No. I would rather watch that though than a horror movie.
No, and that's what I mean. Like people
I think.
people like to be that passenger. They like to be the passive viewer, the
Mhm.
voyeur. Whereas being in the driver's seat and making that decision can cripple people.
It's scary. It's very, very scary. Sorry.
It's okay.
And so even if I have like a perceived, even if it's not real, like I have a placebo level of control, I feel like that comforts me enough to make it so that I can like watch, the thing, especially in games where like your choices can save people and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so if I just, if we just do all the right stuff, and by we I mean my partner because I'm not playing this, I'm gonna watch
Because I'm
him play it.
incapable of making a decision at this exact moment.
No, actually, I tend to be the one that makes the decisions, and he's the one that plays the game. But when we used to do
Oh, okay.
when we used to do spooky game nights with
Used
our
to?
roommates.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because we
Okay.
we used to do it with our
I thought
roommates.
you were
It
just
was
going to be
for
like, no, I put my foot down. We're not doing that shit anymore.
No, I've actually been trying to get us to do one with my childhood best friend who lives here, because they don't really play video games either, but they really like watching it. So I was like, okay, so we'll just both watch my
We could both
partner
just
play
sit
a
here with
spooky game.
popcorn.
Yeah,
Yeah, what are you trying to
exactly.
get? What are you trying to get your partner to play?
I'm trying to get us to finish Resident Evil Village because we never
Mm.
finished that. Um, that one I think is the big scary one.
It
We
has some
are
highs and lows. There are certainly some scarier parts, but I would say
eh,
for the most part, there's the ending is definitely more action driven.
that makes sense. That Resident Evil's always towed the
They
like
they
action.
veer into that line a little bit. Now, what I will say is there's a really great horror sequence right smack dab in the middle.
Can't
So
wait. Yeah, there's that one. I can't remember because there was another game, a scary game that was coming out that I really wanted us to play, but I cannot remember what it was now. So I'm literally gonna look it up and see if I can remember because I was really excited about it.
I've gotten and just again to briefly touch on it, I've gotten my partner into playing things recently, and she always like she sets like a timer. She's like, I can
Mhm.
only play video games for like an hour, or else I feel like I'm wasting too much time. And I'm like, hold my beer as I sit like for 4 hours on fucking Rivals.
I was about to say me sitting for an entire day on my day off.
Yeah, for no, and she doesn't judge me for how I want to spend my time. She understands that it's a cathartic exercise for me, but she'll put an hour and a half into Oregon Trail and be like,
Oh, I love Oregon Trail.
she'll be like, what did you do to me? What did you do? Why did you do this? And I'm like, some
I
people
love
read books, some people watch TV, some people watch movies, some people play video games. Just accept
it.
it.
No, I totally
But
agree.
I'm getting her into Little Nightmares,
Oh yeah.
and because it's a kind of easy, anyone can pick it up and run away from a ghoulish monster type of
Mhm.
thing. I'm very interested in seeing how she can handle
How
that
she
as we move forward.
Yeah.
So
I love this
I had to
so
pick
much.
something spooky.
I love this so much, and I also love I because I figured it out. It hasn't come out yet, but I am fucking dying for the new Silent Hill Project
Mm-hmm.
F,
Mm-hmm.
because like
You actually
I
talked
love
about that on your last episode too.
I
Yeah.
did, yeah. So like that, I think I am fucking jonesing for that. I love the goo. I love plant horror. I
Oh yeah.
love plant
Bio
horror. I
horror for real.
love plant. Yes, I love it so much. It's like my favorite
Putting the
thing. So
bio
I'm
back
like,
in Biohazard. You know what I'm saying?
exactly. I liked Biohazard actually. That was another Hillbilly Hell game.
Yeah.
Came out when Hillbilly Hell was really popular.
That's the
Ugh,
Resident Evil title in Japan.
yeah. Hillbilly Hell. Yes, it's 50s Japan, I think.
Well,
And it looks like
Biohazard.
there's gonna be
Biohazard is literally the name of the Resident Evil series in Japan.
oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Fun
I'm
fact.
sorry. I got back onto F
That's
the
okay.
the project, but
You're
yeah.
allowed to be excited for horror things. In fact, I want to give you accolades for looking forward to a horror project, because I'm going to be interested in hearing how you handle things
Oh,
in
I'm gonna
in
like. Oh, I'm gonna freak the fuck. Oh, I'm gonna freak the fuck out. I mean, I saw Nosferatu twice, and that was actually it's a pretty scary movie for me, honestly.
There's some
So I was
moments,
pretty
yeah, for sure.
yeah. It's for me very scary. For a regular person, not so much.
You were in it for the monster fucking though.
I sure was, and my God, did they deliver?
My God,
My
did you get
God,
exactly what you wanted?
Robert, my mans, I love you so much. Thank you for giving me the gothic movie of my dreams. It was so gothic. It was so like gothic horror. It was so,
all of his movies get into monster fucking in some way, shape, or
it's true.
form.
Yeah, I think that he's kind of gonna climb up there with Guillermo del Toro because Guillermo del Toro, I feel like, is the resident monster fucker in
He is.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I feel like our good man, Robert, is gonna climb up there and hang out with him at some point.
Rob's been
I'm
taking
not
the
mad at
grassroots approach, whereas Guillermo always had studio backing, you know.
It's true. And I mean, I have to, and also, you know what, Robert, that bitch loves killing kids. He
We love to see
loves
it.
killing kids. No, I'm so down. It's just so funny because I feel like a lot of the times they're like, you can't show children getting murdered on
We've
TV, and
talked
he's like,
about that
oh
on one of your last episodes too. Yeah.
my God, sorry. He's like, watch me.
No, it's just it's funny that these things resonate with you, because it's just like
Killing
I
kids.
love to bring this out of you when we record, because it puts you in the right mindset. You know, like it's all vaguely in the same field. We don't we don't know what we're about to get. So it's just like what horror awaits us. and and in a lot of ways, when you see a director you love, like Eggers, murk a fucking kid, you know, a third of the way through the movie, it tells you that there are some fucking high stakes, that this is a real story, that they're trying to be as realistic as possible, because in the real world, newsflash, kids fucking die.
A lot, unfortunately. Oh
Unfortunately, yeah.
God. On a very dark note, I actually had to have that conversation. My sister's girlfriend is from Slovakia, and we were in a Walmart in rural Virginia, and you know how in the Walmarts they have those signs that have all the missing kids
Hmm.
on them. She was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
So we had to
A
like
grim
explain.
reminder that we try to
Yeah,
make awareness for the things we can't casually explain.
exactly.
Uh, yeah. No,
And it,
that's
yeah, it was just crazy because like it was
even the
never.
milk
I just
cartons of the 80s, they just the iconography of the "Have you
it's
seen this kid?"
horrifying.
Oh, it's sad.
It's horrifying.
I'm filled with like a melancholy when I think of that.
Exactly, because it's just like it's just it's interesting because I think that's one of the appealing things about horror in general, right? Is that I don't know if it's like maybe it's American specifically. I would need other people
Probably.
from other countries to weigh in, but like in America, everything is so sanitized now and people are so like they don't want to be uncomfortable for even a second, and like that if that means ignoring real
Well, yeah,
problems.
they
Right.
just shut the TV off if they hear something
Exactly.
they don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
They
They just
stopped
there's just
they put
this
their phone down, you know.
yeah, there's this like avoidance of like difficult topics and
Yeah.
of like being like raw and real and confrontational, and it's I think that the reason that horror is so appealing for people is because it looks at the stuff that
You can't ignore it.
regular, society, quote unquote, not to sound like the goddamn jonkler, but like, that society would rather not look at. Horror is like, no, look at it. This is a thing that can happen. This is
Yeah.
real. Like, it touches on the things that are scary and the things that we don't want to think about. And it makes you not only think about them, but almost like analyze them critically. And I think that's really beautiful And I think in a way it's one of the things that I love about horror and what I love about romance, because there's actually overlap, I think, in a weird way, of like us kind of exploring our id
Yeah.
and exploring our subconscious and
Till death do
exploring,
us part. It's
right?
a.
I mean, the line between desire and fear is paper thin, right?
I think you touched on something I really love about horror as well, and I think you touched on the beauty aspect, the romance aspect of it. I I like the maturity aspect of it because I think, say what you want about whatever stereotype, who eats sand and gets used to the taste of dirt for how much they ignore shit.
Right.
Um, you can't say that about horror fans. They are very aware. There's a disgusting side of it that
Yes.
I'm aware of. Like I think I said it on the last episode that I don't trust people who like the Terrifier series like too much.
No, yeah,
Like I like the
yeah,
Terrifier series. I love Art the Clown, but like on one hand, the people that are like mega super fans of it probably should be on a watch list.
yes. That's how I feel about
But at the very
Saw
same
also.
time, there's an aspect of, well, I think everyone should see something like this, and I'm not talking about those movies necessarily. I'm just saying there's a maturity, there's a realism, there's a type of person who watches those things and goes, yeah, I mean, this kind of prepares me for how, you know, awful, like so fucking violent some things can
Yes.
be. And
Yes.
it's different for different people because I think on one side of the coin there's people who are trying to ignore violence in general, terror
Yeah.
in general, and
Horror.
they don't realize what other people are experiencing
Oh,
and living through
right. Yeah.
on a daily
Yes.
basis. And it doesn't have to be a clown with a chainsaw. It could be very, a banal sense of horror, sense of dread, but it's the people who just outright say, like, I don't watch that, I don't touch that, that I'm just like, then you're denying yourself, you
Mhm.
know, an element of what it means to be human.
Yes. Yes, because being human is everything. It's like, I mean, that's the beauty of being alive, right? And that's one of the things that I love about being a person that just sort of operates based on like a how can I make my day-to-day life more fulfilling? And one of the ways that we connect with one another is through the grotesque and the horrifying,
Yeah.
because like being a human can be
Fear is
grotesque and
universal.
horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's this like, what's the word I'm looking for? There's just so much to be said for connecting with people over like, horror and terror and like all of those like negative things, because like we all understand at a base level what it's like to feel that feeling.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I
it's,
get it every year when I go to Halloween Horror Nights.
oh yeah,
You get the butterflies, the ants, you know,
yes, the
you're
nausea.
the yeah, for some certainly, as you're sitting there, you're hearing the screams, you're looking at the houses, and the anticipation is killing you a little bit. And then as you go through it, it's the pins and needles, and it's the jump scares, and the feeling like you're on your, the edge, the climax. So it's just, I I think it's safe to say that horror elicits a lot of meaningful things for people, and if they get any of that from our show, from what we read, from what we're able to bring to people, then I'm glad that we are tossing our 2 cents in there, that we are
Right.
contributing to something that I think is meaningful.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's because it is meaningful. I mean, the meaning of life, in my opinion, is human connection. Every single person on the planet wants to feel connected to other people. I mean, that's why we have cults. That's why we have, terrible subcultures. It's why we have amazing subcultures. Everybody just wants to feel connected to someone else. And there's a limitless amount of methods to do that. And some are obviously much better than others. But it's just interesting because I feel like the consumption of horror is a specific kind of connection.
It is.
And like,
It's the
it's
genre.
exactly, and it's special. It's special in its own way, and it's really exciting. I just, I love it, and I think that's why I'm always gonna keep watching it, even if I have to watch it through my fingers.
She admitted it, folks. She
I
admitted
did,
it.
okay. I'm not a Sigma. I'm sorry. I fucked up. I'm not at all. I'm literally a baby. Literally a stupid baby. Although
All right.
I'm a stupid baby that will ignore any creature in my basement. So let's see how hard I can ignore this man that's taking a step closer.
I was going to say, I think we should get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I also just totally yacked up like a big old ball of phlegm. So excuse me for
Yeah, you're fine.
for working that out right before I'm about to read. I hope everyone out there is feeling nice and healthy and wonderful. And,
Yeah, literally.
Opposite of how I'm feeling. Franz McBoohoo had pneumonia. everyone I know is sick.
I'm pissed too because I was just fucking sick and I was like really sick. Like in December, I'm pretty sure I got the flu. And like it was like middle of December. So it's like I was sick literally a month ago. I never get sick this close together. My immune system is really, really good, so I'm still fucking pissed about it.
I don't think I've been sick in like a year or two, so I'm actually really surprised that I got this because it's very much just like a regular head cold.
Yeah,
It's
that's
annoying.
exactly what it is.
It's nothing more than just like an annoyance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
not gonna
affecting
kill
everything I do at the most minimum level, and I can't shake it.
and it's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
And it's bullshit.
And what's funny is no one around me, like physically around me, is getting it. So I know it's not something I got from someone. It's something I did to myself. So like I can't even blame anyone. I can only blame myself. All right. To read the title one more time to strike fear into the hearts of many. The man in my basement takes one step closer every week. I love the way this starts, by the way. I love this list. The list.
I love a list.
The list shows us right off the bat that we have rules. All right.
We have rules, and also we're not the first, and we won't be the last.
Yeah. Number 1. He will begin in the furthest corner of your basement. If you see him, do not overreact. He may decide to move on. Number 2. If the intruder decides to stay, he will take one step closer each week. Already, you're fine, because you're just going to ignore the fuck out of him. And
honestly,
he's going to get bored and leave you alone, right?
This is what I'm saying, though. This shit just, every time I read a story like this, it just confirms my real life theory, which is that
Ignore, don't overreact, don't interact,
Don't give it attention.
Don't give it attention, yeah.
It wants attention, like a toddler.
Number 3, do not attempt to speak with him, hurt him, or get third parties involved. Number 4, any violation of Rule 3 generally results in several quick steps forward, depending on the severity of the transgression.
Oh boy.
Number 5, barricading the doors is acceptable. This will slow him down, but the process will be very loud, aka difficult to sleep. Well, I'm fucked because I can't have anything bother my sleep. I turn such a little bitch when that happens.
No, I get, like, the rage is just it's on another level. I don't know who I am when I'm tired. I'm a different creature entirely, and all should
Yeah.
live in fear.
Yep. Number 6, to others, the intruder will appear as a mannequin, a rubber dummy, or a coat hanger. Do not let guests near him. Number 7, the intruder will not move so long as you have guests in the house. Guests who actually want to be there, which I think means to imply that they need to be ignorant of your issue. Once I had an old friend sleep on the couch for 3 months, and the intruder did not move a step. All right, so just get married. Get hitched. have an old-fashioned Las Vegas wedding.
Right, like I'm down, but at that point, wouldn't that just make them not a guest anymore? Unless you keep separate, like,
if I'm the owner of the house, it's hard to say.
yeah, I need to know what the rules are.
Yeah,
like,
what's the rule? What's the rule on companionship?
We need specificity here.
Will this ghost leave me alone if I'm trying to fuck?
Yeah, please. Please leave me alone if I'm trying to smash. Thank you.
Number 8, the last number on the list. You can leave the house but never sleep anywhere else. I guess that answers that. This ghost does not want you to fuck.
Boo.
Never make plans to move, even browsing for houses online. The importance of this rule cannot be overstated. And what's the assumption with that? That, like, you know, it'll just be waiting at the front door for you when you get home, like a disappointed housewife?
It could be. It's about to put all your shit in Jell-O.
Or maybe it comes to the house that you sleep at and just murks both of you?
That's what I'm wondering, because they're very specific about not bringing guests around it. So I'm wondering, like, does it just like eat the?
Well,
guests?
that's not necessarily true. It says that guests are a way to bide time.
Right. Well, like you can have guests in the house, but you can't bring them like near him.
Yeah, they don't want anyone interacting with it. You or
yeah, do not
guests.
let guests near him. Yeah, so it's like I'm wondering if something happens.
It's interesting, but there is a way to like gamify this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And like I guess knowing up front that there are rules would make me a little bit more comfortable, because at least then it's like something to focus on instead of just nothing. Like if someone just told me like, hey, there's a dude in your basement, he's gonna take a step every week, I would be like, what? But at least now I have like a set of rules where I could be like, nah, fuck you. I'm gonna do whatever I can to stop you from taking steps.
Yeah, I was about to say, I guess I'm gonna have somebody stay with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and just always, you know, give them a name tag that says like, hi, I'm a guest.
Hi, I'm guest.
Yeah.
Like a Dollar Tree employee name tag.
Yeah.
I could just hire people to be a guest.
General notes. None of these rules are set in stone, and the intruder seems to evolve and react depending on your actions. Personally, I recommend measuring the distance from him to the furthest corner of the house, calculate how long it will take him to reach you, and set up your bedroom as far away as possible. Once established, do not move your bed. You must sleep there from now on. Please note that sometimes he will leave his station and wander up into the house. Do your best to ignore him. He will always return to the last place he left off. Now, I don't like that last line the most. Because now it's like... Now it's like, how do you know when he's in fucking roaming mode and not just like taking his step or steps, I suppose, plural.
Oh god.
Because again, we're getting back to like the worst one of all, which is like, I'm trying to sleep, you're telling me I could wake up in the middle of the night, look across this room, and this fucker is just like pacing at the foot of my bed. I would literally hate that.
I would literally lose my shit. And also just like, you can't move. You can't sleep anywhere else. You can't, like, you
know
can't
what rule isn't covered on this, Cannibal?
What?
Setting my house on fire.
I was about to say, what if my house? But
What if
like,
my
literally
house
though.
doesn't exist? What if the world is my house? What if
Wait,
that's
but
my
that's.
mind? What if that's my frame of reference? What if that's my mindset? That I live
But
in the
now I
world and therefore the world is my oyster.
But now I genuinely want to know though, because like, things happen. Like, depending on what area you're in, like a tornado could fuck your house up
That's
completely.
true.
There could be a flood, a
Yeah.
hurricane, a fire. Like, natural disasters happen. So what happens if a natural disaster takes place and the house gets like absolutely destroyed?
I
Like,
suppose it would
what
move on
happens?
because what? It would feel bad that you're already dealing with too much. It's like, I'm sorry about your basement.
It's
You're
like,
gonna need
oh
insurance
man.
for that.
Or would
There's
it blame you?
there's mold, by the way. But I'm out of here. Have fun with the
Yeah,
asbestos.
see you, loser.
Yeah. I guess that's why rule number 2 or rule number 1 was he may decide to move on. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. Don't like it. Already don't like it. Already off to a bad start.
Yeah, we're off to a really rough start.
I had to laugh as I read the typo-ridden list of stupid rules left on my doorstep. Likely conjured up by some neighborhood kid with too much free time. Props for creativity, though. Stepping back inside, I folded it up and tucked it away. Guess it was preferable to getting toilet papered. Slumping back onto the living room couch, I resumed watching the game. The game.
Okay.
The game. I just moved into the neighborhood. Owning a house of my own had been a life's goal since 18, something no one else, either hearing this story or reading this story, will ever come to realize.
It's true. We all have impossible dreams.
Owning a home should be one of them for everyone, don't you think? Now, after 15 years of working, saving, and taking on crippling debt, now it makes sense. I finally had a place of my own. I wish this was in italics. Hooray.
Yeah, he literally. They sound so unenthused.
I bought a house and it's haunted. Fuck me. A killer deal on a modest 1980 two-story with a basement and a backyard swimming pool. The main floor was an open design kitchen, living room, entrance hallway that led to upstairs. Upstairs was a short alcove with 3 doors, master bedroom, guest room, and washroom. The house was the only thing in the lonely life that I felt proud of. Something caught the corner of my eye. Across the living room, in front of the entrance hallway, the basement door was cracked open. A slit of pitch dark. Okay. I turned back to the TV. Took a note out of Cannibal Siren's book, just ignore it. Probably forgot to close it earlier. Shaking it off, I focused on the game as much as I could, but the cracked open door lurked in my peripheral all the while. It almost felt like someone was watching me. Fuck. I got up from the couch, marched across the room, pulled the door shut, and marched back. Embarrassed, I plopped into the couch and swung my feet up on the coffee table. Maybe that stupid list of rules was getting to me after all. Maybe whoever wrote it wasn't done messing with me yet. Knock, knock, knock. I jumped at the pounding on my front door, muting the TV. I begrudgingly got up, hauled over, and yanked open the door, and a smiling man greeted me. Barely 5 foot tall, round, and wearing a bright green Hawaiian t-shirt with matching cargo shorts, vaguely reminding me of Batman's penguin.
A green Hawaiian shirt. That is.
I was gonna say, I don't think I have a green one.
I was about to say, I don't think.
Blue, I have white, I have pink.
Yeah, red. I feel like blue and red are like the traditional.
Like orange.
colors.
Just warm colors, I suppose. You want to take this voice?
Sure. Sir!
He said, a forced smile plastered to his face. Hello.
I'm so sorry to bother you.
He looked down at my shoes, studying.
Someone's been leaving notes on the doorsteps out here, and since you're new...
He looked up, glanced back over his shoulder, then back to me.
I just wanted to warn you.
This guy had more nervous energy than a cold turkey drug addict. Warn me about what? The smile on his face turned grim.
The notes.
He said, pausing for effect.
There's a
He searched for words.
mentally unstable young man in the neighborhood.
Okay.
His father.
He glanced back over his shoulder again.
His father lived in the house across the street from you.
An overgrown one-story box of a house. It looked almost abandoned.
And his father asked. The son
He looked back to me.
started writing notes, leaving them on doorsteps around the neighborhood. I don't like the way that he said past.
Yeah.
Like there's too much of a pause there.
There's a lot of shady shit going on there. Like, what
Yeah,
aren't you
there's-
telling me?
Yeah, there's freak shit afoot.
I set my hand on the pocket where I'd tucked away the note.
The son, if you see him, he's harmless, and the notes, well, of course, they're nonsense.
He chuckled. I pulled the note out from my pocket. Yeah, I was wondering, I said, carefully unfolding the paper, the man's eyes filled with concern. Rule 1, I read aloud. He will...
Please.
He stammered. I raised an eyebrow.
I've seen enough of those for a while.
He rubbed his forehead with the back of his thumb.
They're harmless, but also kind of...
He looked around, again, searching for words. Creepy? I said. His eyes lit up.
Yes, creepy. What a great word, creepy.
He marveled, weirdly impressed. I almost laughed.
Anyways, I just wanted to let you know, don't worry about the notes. They're ridiculous, of course.
Of course.
Oh, I must be,
For the third time, he searched for words. Leaving?
Yeah,
He laughed, wagging a finger at me.
I must say, you're really good with words.
He shook his head like I'd just pulled off a magic trick.
Oh,
I-
he's stupid.
I try. I said skeptically, though he seemed sincere.
Howie, by the way.
Howie. He shot out his hand for a handshake and I recoiled. The pandemic was still in full swing.
Oh, of course.
He said, reading the room. He shook his head again.
Still not used to it.
It's all good. I'm Brandon, by the way.
Brandon.
He smiled again and turned away. I stood there in the doorway watching him leave, dumbfounded by the strange, almost comical conversation. As he stepped onto the road, I stepped back into my house and went to pull the door shut, and I stopped short. Something caught the corner of my eye. About 7 houses down sat a white hatchback car with tinted windows, idling. I can't say why it grabbed my attention, but it did. And for some unknown reason it felt out of place, sinister, even. Shrugging, I stepped back inside and pulled the door shut behind me. I collapsed back onto the couch. Fuck. My team was losing.
They sure are, buddy. It was dark out when the game finished. 3-1 against me, of course. I turned off the TV, stretched up my arms, pushed off the couch, and froze. The basement door was open again. Wide open this time.
If it was wide open, I'd double take.
Yeah. Especially if I
didn't
know
do
I
that.
closed it. Yeah, that would be upsetting.
Very.
A few long seconds crept by until I finally stepped forward. I know I shut that door.
Yeah.
I stopped at the top of the stairs. Below me, everything faded into uninviting darkness. I flicked on the light and an orange glow stuttered to life. Beige, cream walls, and scratchy carpet. The stairs went down about 20 steps, then took a hard turn to the left. I'd only been in the basement 3 times since moving. Nothing but unopened cardboard boxes down there. pulled the door shut and went up to my room. Crawling into bed, I flicked off the light, closed my eyes.
It sounds like you.
Yeah, honestly, Brandon, you're so me. He's kind of girly.
You looked at your open door, you said, fuck that, you closed it, and you went upstairs and went right to bed.
You're damn fucking straight.
Hey, at least we've established a baseline, Cannibal.
He's right so far.
Maybe the door was broken.
Maybe the door was broken. Sounds like a tomorrow me problem.
Tomorrow me is a good way to say that.
Yeah, it's tomorrow me's problem. I love being today me or yesterday me. Yeah, excuse me, today me is amazing. Yesterday me, a cunt.
I was gonna say yesterday me sucked.
Yeah, yesterday me is a fucking bitch, and I don't want nothing to do with her. Tomorrow me, hero. Never done anything wrong in her life. A bump in the night startled me awake.
Nope.
I checked the time. 2:58 a.m. Faint moonlight cast in the bedroom window. Stacks of unopened moving boxes crowded my room like a cardboard metropolis. The night was silent. Still half asleep, I sat up onto the edge of my bed, staring at the closet door. A door that reminded me of my childhood bedroom. A door that reminded me of an old friend. A sliding door with fake cherrywood vinyl covering it, and something downstairs moved. 7 quick thumps, creaking across the hardwood floor.
Okay, so that's... Oh, okay. I was gonna say 7 quick thumps is like someone walking.
Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Clicking, almost like dog feet, only heavier.
Yeah,
Ooh,
no.
I don't like that.
Yeah,
That's
no.
long nails. I cursed under my breath, fully awake now. The reasonable part of my mind wondered if a raccoon snuck inside.
That's reasonable.
It's a better explanation than there being a mysterious ghost in your basement.
All right.
The less reasonable part of my mind wondered if it was Satan himself. There we go. I stood up from the bed and marched over to a stack of boxes in the corner. No way was I going down there without a weapon. Sliding a box off the top of a precarious tower, I turned back and placed it onto the bed, rifling through it until my hand grasped a familiar cold metal object. I pulled out a chrome-plated switchblade. The same one I had bought off my weed dealer back in high school.
I do love that. I mean, he immediately weaponized, you know?
I appreciate that he weaponized, but why do you have a knife?
His weed dealer was going above and beyond. He went with the upsell. He said, hey, with your 8th, I could also give you this crazy knife. And who's going to say no to a cool, crazy knife?
You know what? Honestly, I'm shitting on this, but this is absolutely what my younger brother would have done in high school. And this is the same younger brother that got me a spear for Christmas.
Oh.
This year. I mean a real spear. Like, I could kill someone with this.
Oh,
thing.
no,
It
I
is
got my stepdad a samurai sword for Christmas this year.
He got me literally a, like, murder spear for murdering people.
I love that for you.
I was like, why did you get this for me? He was like, he literally looked me dead in the eye and he was like, I don't know, I just thought you would like it.
Did you?
I wasn't sure at first. I was just confused because I was like, why do I need a murder spear? Because it's just like got a black plastic, you know, staff basically. So it's not really like in my aesthetic or anything. But then like it kind of grew on me, and now I'm like, I have a fucking spear. You know.
I do love that for you.
It's honestly, it's very in character for my family. So. I flicked the knife in and out a couple of times. That'll do. Knife in my back pocket, I stepped towards the doorway, wrapped my grip around the smooth brass doorknob, and pushed it open. It was darker out here. No windows upstairs. I flicked on the light. Cold, waiting room glow cast over everything. At the bottom of the steps, the basement door was still closed, thank God. I wonder if that means anything, because he specifically referred to the basement light as, like, warm and orange, and the upstairs light is cold, and, like, waiting room, like, static.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna just remember that. I'm curious if that.
I mean, you
means anything.
keep mental note of whatever you gotta. I don't like any of this. Something walking around in my house in the middle of the night making me get up. Like, I'm already grumpy. I'm already,
Pissed, yeah.
Yeah, I'm already thinking of like fucking killing someone. The last thing I need is to see some shit, some fuck shit.
Murder on my mind. Basement door. Okay, at the bottom of the steps, the basement door was still closed. Thank God. I crept silently down the stairs, one step at a time. A faint smell hung in the air, almost like burnt hair and gasoline. Almost.
What's with the smell, though?
I don't like it.
Burnt hair and gasoline.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. It's a pretty gross combination.
So gasoline you can't really explain. Not a lot of stuff smells like gasoline. Burnt hair you can explain pretty much to anything. Even animals can smell like burnt hair. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you explain the gasoline, though.
And that's the thing. It's specifically gasoline. It's not gas.
Yeah.
It's gasoline.
Like petrol.
Because those are very different, different smells.
Yeah.
Moonlight cast in through the living room window. Everything down here was quiet and still. Too still. Like the world was on pause. I scanned the living room. Empty. I stepped into the kitchen. Empty. Shaking my head, I pulled open the fridge. Old houses make strange sounds, so I reminded myself, pouring a glass of milk. I took a swig, and the taste of foul rot filled my mouth. I spewed and spat back into the cup. What the hell? Rinsing out my mouth with tap water, I gurgled and spat until the bitter taste was gone. There's no way that expired already. I checked the date. 6 days till expiry. Weird. I set it down and wandered over to the living room window.
Isn't that like a poltergeisty thing? That food, food goes bad.
It's also it's an old fae, like fairy thing.
Oh, okay.
Like they curdle your milk and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Across the street, the neighbor's house was dark. I should have asked Howie if the note-leaving son still lived there. Based on what he said, it sounded like this kid needed professional help.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't? Everybody does. Leave him alone. Suddenly, a light snapped on across the street. Exterior, left side of the house. Motion detector, bluish glow, revealed a cluttered and neglected backyard. Even more unkempt than the front. Bots flapped in desperate circles over the unnatural light, and then it went dark. I turned back to head upstairs, but stopped. My eyes caught the basement door again, still closed. Something stirred within me this time, morbid curiosity, perhaps. I trudged over and pulled open the door. I flicked on the light and stepped down. Scratchy carpet clawed at the soles of my socks. I reached the stairwell corner, more darkness. A 15-foot hallway with doors on either side led to an open rec room. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. Of course.
This dude's got balls.
He does. This is where me and him are diverting.
This is where we diverge. Yeah.
We are diverting
There's a part of
here.
me that agrees with, gotta check the whole house. Gotta check everything. There is a part of me that has absolutely done that before when I've lived alone. Where I've heard something. Gotta check everywhere.
I stood there for a good 10 seconds, staring into the dark, the strange pull of curiosity only getting stronger. Begrudgingly, I pulled out my phone, turned the light on, moved forward, stepping over boxes and clutter as I went. The strange smell from down upstairs was even stronger down here, like gasoline and burnt hair. Maybe there was a leak? I'd get that checked out tomorrow. Regardless, I pushed forward and stepped into the garage-sized rec room, cold concrete against my feet. I scanned the phone light from left to right until I froze. Stood in the back right corner was a coat rack post. For a second, it almost looked like a person. I don't own any coat racks. Somebody put it there. I felt sick, angry. Somebody broke into my house and put a coat rack in my basement corner. Indignant, I marched forward. This is not the conclusion that I would have come to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Real quick, this is not the conclusion that I would have come to.
On one hand, it's yo, free coat rack.
Yeah, see, if that's my thing, I feel like for me, I think I would be thinking about that note.
I would definitely be thinking about the note, but at the same time, I'm yo, free coat rack.
Yeah, I feel like I would just assume that it was left in the house by the last people that lived here.
Unless you knew for a fact that the house was empty when you moved into it.
It's true.
That's exposition info we haven't been given.
It's true. And I mean, although I think for me, because I'm always looking for a rational explanation, I would just be like, maybe I
Oh, this is
missed
just
it. Or like,
leftovers. Yeah.
yeah, leftovers, something happened, like some weird stuff happened during the move. Moves are weird liminal spaces anyway. Sometimes, like, I still haven't found my physical D&D dice, and we moved almost a year ago. So sometimes you lose stuff, sometimes you gain stuff. Like, moves are weird. But I mean, this guy thinks someone broke into his house and he's committing. So,
Okay.
indignant, I marched forward, yanked it off the ground, and stormed back upstairs. I knew exactly who did it too. Same person who left the note. It had to be. That was disturbing enough in its own right, supernatural bullshit or not. Of course, back then, the possibility of the note being a sincere warning never crossed my mind. I didn't even consider the chance that something unknown and terrible was about to enter my life and never leave. At this point, I was convinced that a malicious trickster was trying to break my sanity. I'm not the most stable of individuals, but it'd take more than a coat rack and a creepy note to do that. A lot more. I snapped the coat rack in half,
Fuck.
tossed it in the garbage, and sat up in the living room until morning. That week, I installed new security and locks. If anything else happened, I'd get the police involved. Stupid rules be damned. Either way, I'd been through worse. In hindsight, dismissing the note might have been the biggest regret of my entire life.
Great way to end part 1 on
Jesus.
on you know the note being confirmed.
Someone's
And,
being
you
a
know,
silly Billy.
the author says, in hindsight, dismissing the note might have been the biggest regret of my entire life. That means the note is 100% accurate, and that also
100%.
means that the choice that young Brandon made in snapping the coat rack in half and tossing it was also not the right decision to make.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Part 2. I stood at the living room window, waiting. Finally, the garbage truck pulled up to the curb. A heavy-set man in bright orange fizz vest stepped off to the side and spat dryly onto the pavement. Ha-choo. He hoisted my garage coat, my garbage. He hoisted my garbage, coat rack included, into the back compactor. Joy. Climbing onto the truck, he unceremoniously tossed the aluminum bucket back onto the road, and my relief vanished. Inside the bucket was a left-behind, foot-long splinter, a lingering remnant of the coat rack. Bursting through the front door, I yelled after the garbage truck, and it lurched to a grudging stop. I forced a smile, strode across the yard, bent over, reached into the can, grabbed the splinter of wood, and tossed it into the truck. The Visvest man blinked disinterest towards me as they drove off towards the next house. The truck's compactor pressed down with a satisfying crunch. Goodbye, coat rack. There was a strange comfort in it, as though the coat rack itself held some special power over me, a power which, upon its destruction, had lifted. Strolling back towards the house, I caught myself smiling, almost feeling happy. I wrapped my hand around the front doorknob, and a sharp pain shot up my wrist. My arm swung back like electric shock. Gritting my teeth, I turned my palm over, and a splinter about the size of a blood test needle was lodged in between my thumb and pointer finger. Ouch. I breathed in, pinched the splinter, yanked it out, tossed it back over my shoulder, and stepped inside. As I pulled the door shut, red smeared across the brass doorknob. He bloodlet. It's hungry now. It'll never leave him now.
I was about to say it has a taste for it.
I turned my hand over again, and a thin line of blood trailed out from the puncture wound, snaking down towards the tip of my thumb. Wrapping my other hand around the wound, I marched back towards the kitchen. Bandages were in a tray on top of the fridge. After I finished wrapping my hand up, I turned around and leaned back against the fridge, marveling at how quickly my good move had soured. All it took was a wooden splinter. But then again, another thought crept into my head. Part of me, the paranoid, irrational part, wanted to go back and find the splinter, take it out past city limits, and burn it, just in case. I actually had to fight the urge to go and do this. It's just a coat rack, I reminded myself. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing more,
Is it?
nothing less.
Is it?
Either way, I took comfort in the new security setup, alarms on every door and window, big stickers advertising the system to any would-be intruders. I even checked every corner of the house just to make sure nobody was hiding inside. Can't be too careful. Despite everything, I still hadn't fully processed the fact that somebody had taken the time and effort to break into my house and set a coat rack in the basement corner. Not steal anything. Not even
I just
move
love that
anything.
he's still sure that that's what happened.
Like I said, we have to assume that this dude knew that his house was empty before he got there. So that
True.
means if you know for a fact I don't own a fucking coat rack, how did this get here?
You know, I also have to give him credit because he did specifically say he's not very stable as well. So,
Took him 15 years to afford the
yeah,
house. I'm still of the position to not look a gift coat rack in the hat
same.
mouth. Yeah.
In the hat.
Yeah, a
the
gift,
hook?
a gift in the hook. Yeah, there you go.
Coat rack in the hook.
Just set a coat rack in the basement corner. The simple fact stuck into the back of my head like a stubborn popcorn shell stuck between the teeth. It's the worst. Hunched over my laptop at the kitchen table, I took a sip of bitter black coffee. Thanks to the pandemic, all work was homework now. But that was fine by me. I preferred staying at home to just about everything else anyways. Typing away, I was finally falling into that ever-elusive zen state of work, coding line after line until my phone buzzed against the plastic vinyl tabletop. Unknown caller. I reached over and froze. Something told me not to answer it. Something told me to block the number, but I shook it off and answered regardless.
Brandon.
Said the voice on the other end. I couldn't tell if it was a question or a statement. Speaking?
I'm calling about the note? The one on your doorstep.
He sounded young, early 20s perhaps. Okay.
Yeah, I was the one who left it there.
I didn't respond. I didn't know how to respond.
Look, I know it's weird. Trust me, I know better than most. The thing here is to make sure you understand what's going on, to make sure you take it seriously. Does that make sense?
I didn't answer. He sighed, anxious.
I know you think I'm crazy. Shit, I might be. I need to talk with you in person.
Don't call this number again, I said plainly and ended the call. Setting the phone down, I leaned back into my chair and crossed my arms. You know what's interesting, Cannibal? I just came to the realization. This is another series where there was a note left for someone in a new living situation, and they didn't take it seriously, and it totally fucked them.
With a list, yeah.
And here I thought I was giving us something new.
But it's good, though. Like, tropes exist because they work. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it fucking works.
You're in a new place, you're in a new setting, you know, you don't know it as well, you're new people around you, you're in a vulnerable position. Looking back, I regret my coldness here, but in my defense, I'd seen enough real-life horror by then. I was pushing 40 and well acquainted with the crushing mundanity of real-life suffering. We talked about that. I have no desire to indulge in made-up nonsense. Knock, knock, knock. My heart skipped a beat as the pounding on the door continued. I slid back on my chair and stood up, fist clenched. I marched across the room and yanked open the door, and there stood a young man, tall, dressed in a white shirt with black denim pants.
Look, I'm really sorry to be this persistent, but...
Immediately I recognized his voice from the phone call, but I had to admit his appearance was surprising. Until now, I imagined a weaselly-looking, basement-dwelling internet troll, but this guy almost looked like a low-key movie star, like a young Marlon Brando. Regardless, I didn't know what to say. He looked down, kicking his feet awkwardly at the ground, and then he looked up.
I just need 5 minutes. I'll explain everything and never come back.
His eyes were filled with sincerity, years of suffering hidden beneath a desperate smile. I looked around. Other neighbors were milling about, a few glanced over, concerned. I looked back to him. Fine. My voice dripped with skepticism. He looked back over his shoulder, then back to me.
We can't talk here. Let's go for a walk if that's alright.
I consider myself a pretty good judge of character, and he didn't seem dangerous. He seemed worried. If anything, my curiosity was driving now.
Overcast gray fell over the suburbs. We walked down the street side by side, 6 feet apart, silent. Our shoes scraped against concrete and the smell of outdoor barbecues lingered in the air. He looked back over his shoulder. We were about 4 houses down from mine.
First off,
He said, looking forward again.
I want to apologize.
He slid his hands into his pockets as he walked.
I don't really know the best way to approach something like this, and I'm sorry for being so cryptic.
I grunted non-committally.
Second, I really don't expect you to believe me. Unless I saw something firsthand, I wouldn't believe me either.
He looked up at the clouds and squinted as diffuse sunlight cast against his face. The sky was spinning rain now, invisible drops you only felt, sporadic, icy pinpricks against the skin.
Maybe I am crazy. I don't know.
He shrugged.
My dad was. At least, that's what we all thought until he finally...
He trailed into silence.
Anyways, I'm getting off track.
He said, running a hand through his jet black hair.
Just take it seriously for the first couple of weeks and then see where it goes. And if it's bullshit, then it's bullshit.
I still wasn't sure what to say. At this point, I believed that he believed, but that wasn't enough to change my entire worldview. It wasn't enough to start believing in sentient coat racks.
All you can do is search for ways to slow him down. Invite people over as much as possible. Try to figure out if there's a way to stop him without breaking the established rules. I know there's the pandemic, but hell, invite a stranger over if you have to. Rent-free. It should at least buy you some time.
Who's living in your father's house? I asked with a directness that surprised even me.
I don't know.
You don't know? He shrugged.
I haven't been there since.
Again, he trailed off into silence. Grimacing, he looked down as if the words might be somewhere close.
I grew up here.
He said, changing the topic once again.
My sister and I used to collect pine cones in the park.
He pointed across the street. Park was a generous word for an empty lot with a couple of trees and a bench.
We'd sell them to the neighbors.
He almost smiled.
Pine cones with googly eyes glued on, 5 cents apiece.
He shook his head like a chill went down his spine.
Look, you've just got to take the rules seriously.
I still wasn't convinced. You don't know who's living in your own dad's house, I persisted. Did you sell it? He stopped walking and turned to face me.
Don't try to understand this. Trust me.
He rubbed his forehead with the back of his thumb.
The more you try to make sense of it, the more you try to rationalize it, it only gets worse.
Sounds like a death cult mantra. Sure.
You have my number, right?
I nodded.
If anything happens, if you have any more questions, call me anytime. Seriously, anytime. 4 a.m. if you have to. I don't care.
Okay.
It's Mitchell, by the way. Just Mitch is fine, too.
He gave a little wave, turned away, and strolled down the street, leaving me even more confused than before. Worse than that, part of me was beginning to consider the possibility that this might actually be real, a possibility made all the more disturbing due to the fact that I'd already broken nearly every single rule. Classic horror movie fuck up. Either way, his sincerity was unsettling.
By the time I got back home, it was already dark out. I stood at my front door, rifling for my keys, when...
Brandon?
A familiar voice called out from behind. I turned to see Howie standing on the curb. I almost didn't recognize him at first. He wore a blue tracksuit with a blue pencil tucked behind his ear and blue headphones wrapped around his neck. This guy really liked blue. Howie.
Neighbor's kid spoke with you, huh?
He rested his hands on his hips. I nodded.
What'd he say?
I shrugged. Same stuff as the note. Howie shook his head as if to say I expected as much.
Poor kid. At least he'll stop bugging you now.
Yep. Just then, beside the house across the street, the outdoor motion light snapped on. Odd. Howie looked back to see what I was looking at. Through the cracks in the fence, a lined silhouette stood up against the boards. It was hard to tell from a distance, but it almost looked like somebody was standing there, watching us, peering through the fence cracks, motionless. But the yard was filled with junk, so it could have been anything. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. Howie turned back to me.
Anyways.
He started pulling his headphones and turned away. Who's living there now? Howie froze, lowered his headphones, and turned back.
Not sure.
They never sold it?
Nope, not to my knowledge.
So it's empty.
I've seen someone, maybe a few someones, milling about outside.
Ever see him outside? Howie tilted his head, thinking. He clearly never paid much attention to it.
I don't think so, but I got a goldfish memory these days.
He chuckled, shrugged, reached to put his headphones back on, and...
Oh!
His face lit up.
I've been stuck on this.
He pulled a crumpled piece of paper out from his jumpsuit pocket and read,
A thin piece of metal which glows brightly when a current passes through.
He looked up at me, eyes filled with hope.
8 words across, first letter F, third letter L.
The light across the street snapped off and a light inside snapped on. Window, blinds, shadow cast from inside as someone moved across the living room. A drifting silhouette.
Brandon?
Filament, I said. Eyes still locked on the house across the street. Howie scribbled away.
My God, that's it!
He sounded like he just won $1,000 as he looked up at me.
You're brilliant.
I looked back to Howie. Glad to help.
Anyways.
Said Howie, enthusiasm suddenly gone.
See you around.
He pulled his headphones up and jogged away. I stood there, watching the house across the street. The light inside was still on, but no more movement. I turned back to my door, stepped inside. Pulling the door shut behind me, I strode into the living room and stood at the window. The house across the street was dark again. Okay. I pulled the curtains shut, turned back to the kitchen. I sniffed. The strange smell of gasoline and burnt hair lingered in the air still, subtle but unmistakable. I flicked on the kitchen light and sat down at the table and stared blankly at the wall. Harsh fluorescent glow vibrated against white stucco. I should get warmer light bulbs. Then another thought crawled into my head, a thought that was slithering around in my subconscious for the past few minutes. Mitchell, the dead neighbor's son, did not put the coat rack in your basement. Of course, I mean, it's possible that he did, but after talking with him, it seemed highly unlikely. And this raised another, even worse question. Who did put the coat rack in the basement? Howie? Doubtful. Another neighbor? Possibly. The person or persons living across the... Click. The sound of a door popping open interrupted my thoughts, and I looked back over my shoulder. Across the living room in the front entrance hallway, the basement door was open, just a crack. A thin line of darkness. Fuck it. I marched upstairs, grabbed my switchblade from the bedside table, and stormed back downstairs, each footstep heavier than the last. Knife clenched in my fist, I swung open the basement door and flicked the light on. "I'm armed," I said, trying and failing to sound like a threat. "If anyone's down there, make yourself known now." Silence. Nothing but the hum of a buzzing light bulb. I took a deep breath and exhaled. "Bokeh," I whispered, taking a slow step forward. I used to mock people in horror movies for always going down in the basement, but in the moment it felt weirdly like my best option. It was that, or leave the house, or try to sleep. I feel like I'm option A and you're option B.
Yeah, for shoresies.
Try to sleep while knowing that someone might be hiding in the basement? Call the cops. Tell them I found a coat rack that didn't belong to me? Most cops don't even have the time to worry about stolen cars, let alone misplaced furniture. None of these choices were appealing. I reached the first stairwell and stopped at the first corner, and somehow the hallway seemed darker than before. I flicked the light switch, warm glow cast all over. The light wasn't working. Last time. I stepped forward. The familiar smell of burnt hair and gasoline was getting stronger. The short walk down the hallway, feeling like an eternity, and finally I stepped into the rec room. Both corners were empty. Breathing relief, I felt blood rush into my face, and once again embarrassed by my own paranoia, embarrassed by my fear, I pocketed my switchblade and turned back when something caught my eye. In the far right corner, behind a stack of cardboard boxes, was water. A thin layer of surface tension slowly spreading across the shiny concrete floor. Fuck. They never said anything about leaks when I bought this place. I crossed the room and squatted down. There were scattered clumps of wet dirt, too. No obvious source for the leak. Strange. The circle of water slowly expanded outward, and I stared into it, and my crystal-clear reflection stared back. I need a haircut. Drip. My face rippled as a single drop fell from above. Of course, I looked up. Drip. Nothing but pink insulation and 2x4 beams up there. Could be a faulty pipe, I thought. Might explain the weird smell, too. Bang! A door slammed shut. Upstairs, around the corner, the basement door slammed. I jumped to my feet, whipped out the switchblade, and then, before I could process what happened, everything went dark. Pitch fucking dark. The kind of dark that makes everything sound like it's right next to your ear. The kind of dark that makes your thoughts visible. I fumbled for my phone, but it clattered onto the floor. Fuck. I dropped to my knees, flailing in the dark, sliding my hands across the floor. The cold, smooth concrete, desperately searching for the light, all the while the smell of burnt hair growing stronger. No phone, only concrete and cardboard boxes. Fuck. Panic rose inside my chest like a swelling balloon, threatening to burst right through my rib cage. I froze. I breathed in. I breathed out. I breathed in. I breathed out. The panic stopped growing. It didn't get worse. It didn't get better. It merely held in a state of pure survival mode. I could work with that. Clenching my eyes shut, I rose back to standing. I didn't even know which direction to go anymore. And following my gut, I took a step forward. Another step. Another. Up ahead. 7 quick thumps staggered down the staircase and slammed against the corner wall. Silence. Deafening silence. A sliding sound scraped against the drywall as if something rose to standing. A sickening chill went down my spine. I mean, we all assume that there's, like, someone in the fucking hallway now, right? Like, you don't hear a slam and several steps and a slam without assuming that there's, like, a fucking person in front of you, right? My hand clenched tight around the switchblade. "You have about 3 fucking seconds," I said, once again failing to sound like a threat. 3 seconds went by. 5 seconds. 10. Only silence. The sound of my own panicked breath and silence. Fuck it. Knife pointing forward, I rushed ahead, screaming my best attempt at a war cry as I flew through the dark. Running faster and faster until my ankles caught against the first step and I sailed forward, slamming chin first into the corner stairwell, swiping and failing the blade like a madman all the while. The light snapped on. I squinted as my eyes adjusted to the sudden brightness, flat on my ass, backed into the corner of a stairwell. There was nobody there. I looked up the stairs. Nothing. I looked down the hallway, and I froze. Stood in the rec room's center, shattered splinters held together with nails and wire, was the coat rack.
Oh my god. I would be fucking
The coat rack from
cooked.
hell. Looks like
I would be
Hellraiser fucking put this coat rack back together.
I would be fucking cooked if that was me. I would be like, I think I would just shoot myself right then and there.
Just take
I'd
the
be like, well-
switchblade just right into the jugular.
Yep, nope, I'm going out my way. You're not getting me. Alright, time for part 3. Thus far, I've broken nearly every single so-called rule.
Love to see it.
1. He will begin in the furthest corner of your basement. If you see him, do not overreact. He may decide to move on. Guessing that snapping the intruder in half and throwing him into a trash compactor counts as an overreaction. If the intruder decides to stay, he will take 1 step closer each week. Based on my math, I had about 264 days to go until he reached my bedroom. Probably sooner, since he seemed to be moving faster now. Do not attempt to speak with him, hurt him, or get third parties involved. I snapped him in half and threw him in a trash compactor. Any violation of Rule 3 generally results in several quick steps forward, depending on the severity of the transgression. That would explain why he's already in the center of the rec room. Barricading the doors is acceptable. This will slow him down, but the process will be very loud, difficult to sleep. I might do this when the time comes. Earplugs and white noise to sleep over the sound. To others, the intruder will appear as a mannequin or a rubber dummy or a coat hanger, etc. Do not let the guests near him. I don't even want to think about this one right now. 7. The intruder will not move forward so long as you have guests in the house, guests who actually want to be there. Once I had an old friend sleep on the couch for 3 months and the intruder didn't move a step. I have no friends. Not anymore. That's fucking menacing.
That line stands out to me. I don't.
Yeah, what did you
I
do?
have no friends. Not anymore.
Right, like what did she do?
Well, it's a he. It's Brandon.
Still.
But at the very same time, gender aside, I just what's the exposition? What's the past that we're, did you wipe the slate clean when you moved and bought this new house? Do you not have family? Do you not have relatives? Like what's the sitch? Like Brandon is
right,
there's
like,
still so
on?
many unknowns related to Brandon and his plight. It's just like saying something like that in part 3 of a long story is like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, literally, like what did why, and especially when you say not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, what did you do?
It implies that you did and now you don't.
Yeah.
So like something happened. Number 8. You can leave the house, but never sleep anywhere else. Never make plans to move, even browsing for houses online, etc. The importance of this rule cannot be understated. Okay, from there on out, I'd follow the rules until I thought of something better.
2 sleepless nights crawled by until I finally built up the courage to go back downstairs. I needed my phone. Down the basement hallway in the center of the rec room stood the coat rack. Just behind it, my phone lay face down against the concrete floor. Creeping forward, I averted my eyes. It's only a coat rack, I reminded myself. Nothing more, nothing less, except for the fact that I know that I took it out of my basement and threw it in a trash compactor, and I busted it the fuck up, and now it's back, and it looks like it was put back together by Pinhead. Sliding into the rec room, I pushed my back up against the wall and glanced towards the coat rack. Immediate regret followed. Nails and wires were snaked around mangled shards of wood. If the coat rack was a substitute, then what did the actual intruder look like now? An image
that was
flashed
my
through.
immediate question.
You just took a dude and
liquefied
fucking ripped him in half, and now he's trying to put himself back together. That's some Frankenstein shit. An image flashed through my mind, the image of a gaunt man with a carnival smile held together with nails and wires. Creepy. I shook it off and leapt forward, snatching my phone. I scrambled away and hauled up the stairs. I could almost feel the hands of nothing chasing me from behind, ever stretching arms, desperate to pull me back into the dark, inching closer and closer for my ankles as I bolted up the stairs. I slammed the door shut, pressed my back against it, breathing heavy. I slid down to the floor. I remember explaining to you that you ever do that 3 a.m. snack thing where you go to
Yes.
get a snack from a fridge in the dark in the middle of the night, and then as you're running back, you turn the lights off and you try to chase the darkness back to your bedroom?
Yes, every time. Listen, I may be almost 30.
And I am 30. I'm 32.
And I'm still gonna do it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember living with my dad even in my like mid 20s, and I would go downstairs to get like a piece of cheese from the fridge or some shit, and then like I'd have to remember to not step on the cats as I run back up the stairs because they like to just fucking sit there and act like little furry landmines. Um, and I remember like it was almost like a game. I would be like, okay, I'd stand at the light switch for like a second and I'd take like a deep breath and I'd be like, all right, and then I'd switch it and I'd run up the stairs as fast as I could, as quietly as I could, like a fucking ninja, and get into my room. And like every time I'd open the door to my room and there would be like the soft glow of the TV or a computer monitor or something to welcome me, I'd be like, I made it.
I made it.
It's just a coat rack, I told myself again. But the words, they rang empty now. Like a parent telling a frightened child that there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing hiding under the bed. When really, they both know that there is. There's always something hiding under the bed. But it's not the long-toothed monster you imagine as a child. It's not the boogeyman. It's a feeling. A hidden feeling that you can't accept because you don't even know what it is. So instead, you pretend it doesn't exist. A vague and festering obligation you keep pushing back and back and back, always lurking just out of sight, hiding it in your peripherals. Sometimes you even catch a glimpse of it lurking in the corners, only to find that you look and there's nothing. So you shrug it off. You turn back to your phone, your booze, your knock, knock, knock. Pounding at the front door, whatever happened to doorbells, I got up, slinked over, pulled it open. There, on my doorstep, just as I expected, stood Howie.
Brandon!
He said, wearing an oversized smile and an oversized white hoodie with blue, baggy sweatpants. Howie, I said, fighting back the ever-growing pull of sleep deprivation.
Sorry to bother you so early. It's just...
He paused, looked over his shoulder, then back to me.
There's been a few break-ins around the neighborhood last night, and were you hit?
I shook my head. No.
Fortunate.
Behind him in the driveway across the street sat a red Kawasaki motorcycle. The first time I'd seen a vehicle over there.
Anyways, stay around.
He turned to leave, and... Howie? He stopped and turned back. Did you know them? I asked, still watching the house across the street.
Mr. Carver? A little. He ran a restoration thing. Fixed up our basement after a flood once. Nice man, but quiet. He didn't even want a funeral.
I nodded. Howie smiled, sadly, and turned away.
Anyways, be safe out there.
He strolled off, humming to himself as he went, pulling the door shut. I turned back inside. I took my phone out, and the screen was cracked. Spider-webbed. Should have bought a case, you stupid idiot. I dialed. The tone rang out a couple times until...
Hello? Mitch Carver and I met in a diner on the edge of town. 2010's diner, trying way too hard to look like a 1950s diner. Seriously. Every single greasy spoon cliche in the book. Movie posters plastered the walls, all the waitresses wore those blue dress uniforms, and the grill of a turquoise Cadillac hung over the bar. Classy. Red leather booths were lined up against the windows. I sat there, staring blankly outside. Across the highway, I sat in abandoned, middle-class suburbs foreclosed 12 years back. Graveyards of the '08 market crash. The ever-present drone of highway traffic reverberated in the air. Mitch sat across from me. He wore a leather jacket and a ball cap, his eyes quiet and distant. You don't count as the third party? I asked. Mitch eyed me, confused. The rules. No third parties, I said. He shook his head.
No.
Why not?
Already a believer.
Studying him, I took a sip of bitter black coffee. He still seemed sincere, but trustworthy? I wasn't sure. Why does belief matter?
I don't really know yet.
He said, leaning back in his seat. He glanced back around the diner almost like he was expecting someone. Turned back to me, suddenly serious.
You need to tell me what happened.
Excuse me?
You said on the phone something happened that changed your mind.
I raised an eyebrow. I hadn't told Mitchell about my rule breaking for several reasons. Mainly, I didn't want to set him off. For all his sincerity, Mitch did not seem like the most stable of individuals. Not that I blamed him, especially considering his life circumstance. Why are you helping me? I said. He looked out the window, eyes flickering back and forth as traffic sped by. He turned back to me.
I killed my dad.
He said.
I mean, not literally, but it's my fault that he died.
He weighed over his next words carefully. The traffic outside continued, droning ever louder like a rising tide. Mitch continued.
The last few years of his life, nobody believed him. We all thought that he was crazy. But he never talked about it straight up. He just left notes. Sometimes you'd go home after a visit and find one tucked away in your shoe.
He cleared his throat.
The notes were always about this person hiding in your house. How they were literally trying to scare him to death.
The front door chimed open. Mitch tensed up and glanced back over his shoulder. A family of four shuffled inside. He relaxed and turned back to me.
I just want to make sure that what happened to him doesn't happen to anyone else.
He leaned back in his seat again, hands wrapped tight around a cup of untouched coffee. Fair enough.
Look, if you broke the rules once, even twice, that's fine, but you need to tell me what happened.
I nodded slowly, took a deep breath, and I snapped the coat rack in half and threw it in a trash compactor. His eyes filled with shock, a shock he immediately repressed, like a doctor trying to act cool in front of a patient with horrific test results.
And it came back the next day.
Yeah, held together by nails and wire. Mitchell nodded.
How much further ahead was it?
Front door chimed open again, but this time he didn't look back. About 10 steps from the corner, I said. Mitchell nodded again, trying to act like it was all good when it clearly was not. Another question dawned on me. Why does it look like a coat rack? Am I a guest in my own house? Mitchell shrugged.
None of the rules are set in stone. Did you buy the place with your own money?
Yes, well, sort of. Mortgage.
Yeah, that shouldn't.
Mitch? A voice from beside us cut into the conversation. An older man wearing a brown leather jacket and carrying a red bike helmet. Tall, wiry, and in need of a shave. Clint Eastwood vibes. Mitch, where have you been? He said, voice strained with sadness. Mitch looked away, acting like the man wasn't even there. Mitch? He said again, voice almost shaking now. I turned back. Mitch stared down at the coffee in his hands. His reflection rippled in waves of highway traffic rumble. His eyes were wet. Mitch, please. The man leaned forward slightly. I've been looking everywhere for... The stranger trailed off into silence and stepped back. He looked at me. His eyes were filled with years of suffering. He reached into his coat pocket, produced a card, and placed it face down on the table. He looked back at Mitch one last time. I'm always here, kid. He smiled grimly, then turned away and wandered back towards the exit. Hands on the door, he stopped and looked towards us. He opened his mouth to say something, but he turned away. Pushed outside, stepped down into the gravel parking lot. He crossed the lot and climbed onto a red Kawasaki motorcycle. Then He looked back at me through the window, smiling sadly. Suddenly his eyes lit up, darted back and forth for a couple of seconds, and then snapped back to vacant apathy. Almost like someone had crawled into his mind, taken a quick look around, and jumped back out. Eyes back to sadness, he rubbed his forehead with the back of his thumb, pulled on his helmet, revved up the engine, and sped off. Mitch? I said, still staring out the window. The realization of who that might have been was slowly dawning on me.
It's not him. Not anymore.
I turned back. Mitch, hands shaking, took a sip from his coffee and set it down.
You wanted to know what happens when it reaches you.
He threw up his hand as if to say, wish granted. I didn't fully understand what he meant by that, but right now wasn't the time to push. Mitch looked like on the verge of tears. Reaching across the table, he grabbed the card the man had left behind and handed it to me. I turned it over and read, Carver Restoration and Renovation, owner P.T. Carver, Mitchell's father.
And that's interesting, because even Howie thinks that Mitch's dad is dead.
He did, but he hesitated when he said he passed. And he also specified that the man didn't want a funeral.
Yeah, but that's still, like, implied that the perception in general is that this dude is dead. Like, publicly.
It's true. I think Howie knows something. I think Howie clearly knows something.
If we're finally talking about Howie, like, him always looking over his shoulder the same way Mitch does makes me think that Howie also believes in the notes, but just enough to know, like, what to look out for, to be like, oh, it's not in my house, so I'm gonna check in on Brandon every once in a while because I assume it's in his house, type of thing. Like, if you know, like, follow me in this logic. If you know that there's, like, a rabid dog in the neighborhood, you'd want to know that, like, someone has eyes on it, even if it's not you.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's like, I know it's not a great analogy because in this case it's in someone's house, but it's the idea of, like, at least it's not in mine.
Right.
But even, like, we've noticed multiple times now that, like, every time Howie stops by, he stops in the middle of a sentence, turns around and looks.
Yes.
Sometimes
always,
even directly, like, at the house across the street.
Yeah. That's
True. So everyone that Brandon has talked to in this narrative so far has this kind of, is it behind me?
They know
way
something's
of speaking.
up.
Yeah.
Like, they know something's up.
Yeah. Part 4. Rule 6. To others, the intruder will appear as a mannequin or a rubber dummy or a coat hanger. Do not let guests near him. What exactly does others mean? Literally. Yeah, to others. Yeah, I mean, I think he's realizing now that he's an other and that it's choosing to appear to him a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Mitch left the diner shortly after his dad, quote-unquote, showed up, but before he left, I asked him about the so-called other and about why the intruder appeared as a coat rack, and he just shrugged.
Rules aren't set in stone. Just keep your distance,
said Mitch in regards to his father.
He's not what he seems.
Meeting with Mitch revealed almost nothing, save for more unsettling questions. Why was his dad still alive? I mean, it's fair, yeah. Why was his dad still alive? Why was his dad's bike parked in the driveway across the street? Was that even his dad? Was Mitch messing with me? Was the entity messing with both of us? Questions over questions over questions. Rising dread lurked beneath the surface of everything, like reality itself was nothing but a blanket draped over some unspeakable terror, a veil that might be torn away at any minute, any second. Highway 7 was emptier than usual. My blue 1993 Toyota hatchback reverberated with the drones of rubber against road. A red sun crept down behind distant mountains. Shadows stretched longer as the day crawled westward. Against pastel pink skies, starling flocks moved like a singular hive mind. Driving always calmed me down, and before I owned a car, I used to go for these long, solitary hikes out in the mountain forests. There's something about constant motion, outside, alone, and peaceful. I was still committed to the rules, at least until I thought of something better, regardless if my next priority would be to get somebody over, a guest who actually wanted to stay. Maybe I'd rent out the spare bedroom. Maybe I'd call up an old friend. Easier said than done, especially considering the pandemic. Either way, I needed to get a handle on all this. Up ahead, parked at the side of the highway, the red Kawasaki motorcycle. I sped past before the image fully registered, and letting off the gas, I checked the rearview mirror, and there it was. The red bike about 200 feet back. I pulled over, looked back over my shoulder, and only the bike was there. Shifting into reverse, I froze. What was I doing? Mitch specifically told me to keep my distance, but my curiosity had other ideas. I breathed in. I exhaled. I shifted back into forward and stared out into the empty highway ahead, stretching straight into the horizon. Just go home, I thought. Go home, sleep. But I didn't listen. I shifted back into reverse and moved towards the red Kawasaki, lurching to a stop about 10 feet away. I stepped outside, squinting as rising plumes of dust stung my eyes. There sat the bike, kickstand out, keys still in the ignition, helmet sat on the driver's seat. I'm no mechanic, but the air smelt like engine trouble. Does he mean to say, like, gasoline and burnt hair? I glanced around. The highway shoulder went out for about 20 feet and then cut down into the grassy fields. About 50 feet down, someone sat down at the edge of the shoulder. Mitch's dad, P.T. Carver. At least that's what I assumed from this distance. He sat with elbows resting on knees, staring off into the field, smoking. I stood there weighing my options. I wanted to leave, but letting my curiosity win out yet again, I walked over. The smell of gasoline getting stronger with every step. A red jerry can sat on the hard-packed dirt beside him. I stopped about 20 feet away, and he glanced over, made eye contact, nodded, and turned back to the view. Car troubles?
Bike troubles.
Anything I can help with? He shook his head and took a drag off of a brown cigarillo, vanilla-flavored, judging by the smell. All my questions backed away. Sympathy replaced curiosity. Apparition or not, this man looked broken down, as though his life had been nothing but letdown after letdown after letdown. He studied something out in the distant fields. I turned to see what he was seeing. Nothing. Only shimmering wind rippling down the flood grass. The last drips of daylight soaking back into the ground. He pointed.
Off past the boardwalk. About 200 feet.
My eyes followed his directions. Still nothing.
Down beside the water.
Then I saw it. 3 bears. Brown bears. A mother and 2 cubs drinking from the water. I'd never seen a bear outside of a zoo. I didn't even know that they lived around here.
Probably came down from the Bowery. Nothing but clear-cut suburbs up there now.
He spat dryly and pressed his heel against the spit and turned his ankle like putting out a cigarette. And just then the mother bear looked up and glanced around as if she heard something. She held there a couple moments, then went back to drinking.
So you're friends with my son?
Watching the bears all the while. No, not really.
Boyfriend?
No.
Nothing wrong with that.
Didn't say that there was. He
It's a
smiled
ghost.
sadly, clenched his eyes shut. Sorry, what did you
This
say?
ghost might be murderous, but it's not homophobic.
But it's not. Yeah, no, it's fair. This ghost doesn't prejudice.
It's like when Joker finds out Red Skull is a Nazi, and he's like, I'm fucked up. I'll blow up 1,000 hospitals and orphanages, but I'm not racist. Get out of here.
He smiled sadly, clenched his eyes shut, and took another long, slow drag of the cigarillo. A Acquaintances.
What's that?
Acquaintances.
Sure.
People who know each other tangentially. He nodded.
You moved in across the street, yeah?
Yeah.
North of Crazies.
Crazies?
Neighborhood's full of them. Crazies catching.
Yeah, I meant to ask about that. He raised a hand.
All right now. You come by tomorrow, I'll answer any questions you want about any of that. Just not right now.
He motioned towards the horizon as if there was only a moment of peace he'd seen in years, and I nodded. He smiled warmly, took one last drag, and pressed the cigarillo down against the hard-packed dirt beside him, twisting it there until it went cold. Wiping ash-stained fingers onto his brown leather jacket, he took a deep breath, exhaled, and pushed up to standing. He produced another cigarillo and offered it to me, and I shook my head. "Just quit," I said. He shrugged, lit it up, took a drag, exhaled more vanilla-flavored smoke.
You know what to do when you run into Baloo?
Baloo? He blinked, disappointed, surprise.
Grizzly, up close.
Throw your hands up and make a lot of noise? Yell? I said, half remembering something from grade school. He scoffed.
Good way to end up with your head vice between bear jaws.
Pulling another drag, he exhaled the smoke out through his nostrils.
You run into one up close? Just talk to her. Like you've been doing here. Pretend she's an old friend or something. Long time, been a while. Tell her about your day. Ask her about how she's been.
His cold blue eyes filled with memories drifting back and forth across the distant horizon as he spoke.
All the while, you keep backing up. Slow like. Slow as you can manage. Not slow like you're trying to leave. Slow like, we both happen to be going in the same direction. How about that?
He looked at me directly.
Know the difference?
I nodded. He turned back.
9 times out of 10, if she hasn't outright mauled you already, she'll follow. Curious. You just keep backing up. Keep walking.
His jaw tensed up and then relaxed.
You get about 15, 20 feet between you. Take off your backpack or your hat, whatever.
He looked down at the dirt.
Place that on the ground. She'll stop and see what's that. Sniffing, rotting. You back up faster now, but not by much.
Again, he looked directly at me.
Trick is to accept the fact that you're scared shitless. Accept that your head's lying to you. Begging you to run. Whisper in every song in the Bible. You can do this, you can fight, you can run.
He waved his hand as if to say, and so on.
You let that fear take control.
He snapped his fingers with a surprising loudness.
That's it.
He looked away, flicked his cigarillo straight down, stomped it out, and spat.
Instead, you tell yourself, God damn, I'm real scared right now. Take that, and whatever else is on your mind, and you set it aside. Don't push it away. Don't forget it. Just set it aside and focus on breathing instead. Focus on backing up 1 foot after another. No shortcuts.
He trailed off into silence.
Soon enough, she'll lose interest and wander off.
He met my eyes again.
Usually. But if Baloo wants a fight, you go for the eyes.
He shrugged.
At least you'll go down fighting.
A few long seconds passed until I realized that he was finished. Thank you, I said, not really sure what else to say. I turned back to the field, to the family of bears that was now gone. He chuckled softly and stepped back.
Look, if you have any questions about any of this haunting bullshit,
He met my eyes.
you know where I live. Just come over.
I nodded, still unsure if he was a puppet, an apparition, real, or some combination of all three.
I'll just tell you straight up, don't take anything the neighbors say seriously, especially fucking Howie.
Sure, I said, turning back to the car.
One more thing.
He squat down, picked up the red jerry can, and shook it. Empty. The nearest gas pump was about 3 miles out, and I brought the jerry can back full. and we drove home in the same direction despite my reservations. I liked PT. He reminded me of my old man, rest in peace. Still, I didn't know who to believe, and I couldn't shake the way his eyes moved outside the diner like somebody had crawled into his mind, taken a quick look around. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was seeing things. But no amount of paranoia explained the coat rack in the basement, which, first thing tomorrow, is what I meant to ask him about. Now, I do want to talk about that conversation real quick that he had.
Yeah.
I think
he just got instructions on how to deal with this thing.
I think what we just saw is like the last lingering like emotion or memory of what this dude was dealing with when he was dealing with it. Like he's giving him his own version of the notes, you know, like he's saying, you know, treat it like you would a fucking grizzly bear. Treat it, you know, back away from it slowly, mind your own business, keep an eye on it, you know, give it something to sniff at, and then maybe it'll leave you alone. But at this point, he's already punched the grizzly bear in the face and chopped it in half. So I really don't know how much more to read into that. It seems like a little too late.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems too little too late. It seems like you're gonna die anyway, so it sounds like your only option is to go for the eyes.
Yeah, go for the eyes is basically the only thing that stands out now, but how do you go for the eyes on a fucking poltergeist?
Who's to say?
Yeah.
I pulled up into my driveway and sat there for a good moment before stepping out. Orange streetlights bounced over wet asphalt. A small gray dot of a cat or a raccoon shimmied down a neighbor's fence and slinked across the fresh-cut lawn. The house across the street was dark, and the driveway was empty. No red bike. Maybe PT took a different route back.
I don't assume he lives there. We didn't see the bike for the first couple days that he was there, so...
True. Brandon is assuming that he lives there, though.
Well, I think Mitchell was in the white car that we saw earlier. But I think it's fair to say that PT is the one on the bike, and you know, whenever we see the bike from this point forward, we can assume PT's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I agree. I stepped inside and pulled the door shut behind me. When I saw the basement door, the weight of everything came crashing back, the building dread of my bizarre predicament. The door was shut, yet almost pleading with me to open it, silently begging me to check and see if the coat rack was still there, see how much further along it was. Turning away, I went for the kitchen, but I stopped in the living room and looked back over my shoulder. Fuck it. May as well get this over with. I spun around, marched over, yanked the door open, and flicked on the light. Taking a deep, slow breath, I stepped forward, one step at a time, and my foot slipped. I tripped forward 7 quick steps. That's been repetitive also. 7 quick steps. 7 bumps. That means something. And tumbled over head first into the corner. Throbbing pain shot up my left leg. My shin was snapped, turned left at a sickening 90-degree angle.
Fuck.
The bone inside pushed up against my skin like a swollen cyst. I almost puked at the sight.
Oh, there you go.
I hissed, gritting my teeth and pushing back into the corner as the long, dark hallway stretched out before me. I couldn't stand. I couldn't even reach the second light. I couldn't think. Thankfully, I was in too much shock to fully appreciate the rising pain for now. I clenched my eyes shut. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Adrenaline pushed me into a strange state of calm. I opened my eyes. Everything was slightly brighter now. My vision was adjusting, but the hallway was still clouded by shadow. I pulled up my phone, turned up the screen to maximum brightness, and shone it down the hallway. The coat rack was still there, but closer now. About 5 feet closer, I guessed. That. And now, a heavy wool coat hung from its top. So much for 1 step a week. Tucking my phone away, I looked up towards the exit. Time to go. Carefully shifting my body weight to avoid more pain, I turned over, a tedious process. I couldn't afford paramedics or an ambulance, so I'd have to crawl up the stairs and call a taxi. Besides, no way was I waiting down here with only the coat rack to keep me company. Why is being poor so expensive?
Ain't that just the way?
Ain't that just the way? The true horror is poverty in the
Poverty.
American healthcare
Yeah,
system.
there you go.
Drip. A solitary drop of water fell somewhere in the darkness. I slowly turned to look. The coat rack's dim silhouette stood motionless. Fuck this. I was about to turn away, but something moved. Behind the coat rack, barely visible, something rose to standing. I only saw the shadowed outline of a person, the faintest hint of pinkish red skin, like the skin of a dying pig. I froze, paralyzed, my eyes adjusting bit by bit. Seconds dragged by like minutes. Suddenly the wool coat shook as two gaunt yet unnaturally large hands emerged from the dark and wrapped around the coat rack. Gripping tight, the hands lifted the coat rack noiselessly off the ground. Silence. A quick step forward. A stuttering exhale, as though it took a great effort. Then it set it back down. More silence. Then the coat rack hoisted upwards again, and another quick step forward. The schlick sound of wet, bare feet pressed on and off the concrete floor. Another strained exhale, and they set it down. There was an almost hypnotizing, percussive rhythm to it, like a strange, dissonant song. Again, the coat rack hoisted up, and I'd seen more than enough.
Yeah, no thanks.
Twisting to my side, I clawed my hands onto the banister and hoisted myself upward, wincing in pain as my snapped leg dragged uselessly behind me.
Nah, dude, this
More
is hands and knees. I'm crawling up the stairs like a toddler.
Yep.
Like you will move so much faster if you try to just work off of the
Use
limbs
your-
that you have. Like
You have, yeah, exactly. If it's your shin, like, yeah,
if
sitting
it's
on
your
the knees
shin,
gonna
it's your
suck,
hands
but,
and
like,
knees. You're crawling up the stairs like a baby, but you're getting up there way faster than trying to stand up.
more footsteps, more stuttering breaths. It was moving faster now, getting closer. I pulled myself forward, one tedious thrust at a time, gritting my teeth through the ever-rising pain.
Wait, so,
I
or
think he's dragging his body.
well,
I
I'm
think,
also under the assumption that he's like pulling on the banister. We're forgetting
yeah.
what PT said though. You keep eye contact with it. You keep calm. You put the fear somewhere else,
Yeah.
and you just slowly put your butt on the seat in front of you.
Yes.
You know, you
Exactly.
slowly go up, butt by butt by butt. You know, each step, keeping your eyes locked.
Although granted, whatever big hands McGee is, it didn't give a fuck that he was
Correct,
looking at
McGee.
it.
Yeah, good point.
And like moved it anyway. Fuck. Whoever was holding the coat rack was on the stairs now. I didn't look back. I couldn't look back. I kept pulling forward, inching closer and closer to escape, all the while a terrible image burning into my head. The image of long, ever-stretching arms with pig-colored skin, sliding up the stairs, reaching for my shins, inching closer and closer until I gripped my door frame with both hands, launched myself forward. Lurching into the upstairs, I spun around and kicked the door with my good foot. It slammed shut with satisfying finality. Foot on the door, catching my breath, I listened for the slightest movement below. Seconds went by, minutes, nothing. My racing thoughts finally steadied. Close fucking call. Time to barricade the door.
And that is where
Yeah,
we will
man.
stop for today.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's time to fucking barricade the door. Are you shitting me?
I'm well past barricade the door. I don't know where I'm at in this situation, but I'm door has been barricaded, room has been locked, and I'm no longer even in the same state. What if I took an overnight flight somewhere to really fuck with the rules? You telling me that I'm in the middle of the air on my way to fucking Canada, and it's gonna be, and the coat rack is gonna appear back in economy class?
Yeah, fuck all that.
I'm in premium. You can go fuck yourself.
Fuck all that. I don't think so. That's also why, though, I'm really curious if we burn the entire house down, like the house doesn't exist anymore. There is no basement, theoretically, right? I'm wondering if that's what the gasoline and burn hair is referring to.
I think the gasoline and burn hair is just like after effects of a
Mm-hmm.
poltergeist, like
The haunting.
the way that the smell of sulfur.
Yeah. Ravens. Either way, this guy is fucked.
I liked what you said earlier based on, I mean, we're in agreement there for sure. If there's 100 pages to this story left, then there's 100 pages about how fucked this dude is.
Yeah, like we're just at the beginning
Yes, part
and
one
things
of
have
four.
escalated.
We've read
Yeah.
four parts during this episode, and this is gonna be 4 parts of a story. So it's just like, if we're just dipping our toe into what it means for this dude to deal with this fucking thing, then we got a ways to go, but a lot of questions to be answered. If we're touching back on what you said, just to talk about it for a moment, you said like, there's a chance that it's not ghost, spirit, poltergeist,
Mhm.
possession. You said the
There's something
word
fucked
fae.
up happening. Yeah.
If it is like a creature of some kind, how do you alleviate that? How do you satiate a fae? Because in different forms of media, I feel like there has to be some form of sacrifice,
You know
like an
what?
offering of some kind.
Well, that's the thing, right? A lot of people, like in Ireland, for example, it's definitely it was at least a thing, and there people used to leave like milk and honey and
I
like
was gonna say the
offerings and
same
things
thing, like a
out.
little bowl of milk of honey. Yeah,
And what's funny is that the guy said, "Leave your backpack on the ground."
yeah.
It's interesting. It seems like it's all winding up with the idea of like giving it something, like leaving it an offering.
Something to distract it, if anything.
Right.
You know,
Something to just like give it, something else to focus on.
I
Because the whole thing is
yeah.
about not focusing on it. It's about not like allowing your fear to take over. It's about not allowing yourself to
Give it
like,
attention.
lose your shit. Yeah, or give it attention. It's about treating things calmly, rationally, and with like disinterest while acknowledging that the only thing you want to do is like scream and like freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Basically, which is interesting. I'm really excited to see where this one goes. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm it has my full attention, and
Definitely.
I always get to this point, especially with like an episode 1 on a committed series. It's just like,
What's going on?
well, there's the part of me that looks ahead and says like, well, how many times have I read a series that has a really great opening and then it just completely fumbles the finale, the premise.
Cool.
Luckily with you, your track record is a lot higher. We tend to read better stuff on your episodes, so it's just like,
Yay.
do I think this person's gonna fumble it? No, because I think that they've written very they're writing very well. They're writing in a very believable way. They're writing in a very slice of life kind of way. They're writing in a way that like every man
Mhm.
can put themselves, can empathize. So I'm definitely here, but I can't help but have this like thought in the back of my head that says like, how are you getting out of this? the
Yeah,
rules the rules
exactly.
have like a weird gray area. There's not a ton of wiggle room. Like, biding time and
Mhm.
hoping it gets disinterested are like your best bets. And
Mhm.
like, that's not enough for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also though he has escalated things so quickly that like I feel like in
I
a
mean, we're
way,
back in the apartment saga. We got the note
yeah.
too late. Jamie walks into the elevator. Bye bye, secondary, tertiary character. Like, it's
Oh, I
just,
liked him too.
it's just,
Bad.
it's another one of those situations where the impetus for the storytelling comes from the lack of belief.
Exactly.
And now we're full on in the world of belief, but it's a little too late, like we said.
And we're playing, like, the game has
catch up.
changed inexplicably as a
Yeah.
result now.
The
Because, like,
ball
this
is no
thing is
longer in our
not
court.
exactly. This thing is not moving one step a week. It's moving multiple steps a
And it's
day
looking
now.
at you while it does it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's coming for your ass. You know what I mean? Like, it's an eye
And
for
that's
an
why
eye
I'm sitting
situation.
here. I'm like, what can you do? And it's like,
What can you do?
barricade the door. It's just like, I don't know. Like, that's a Band-Aid. That's a
Go for the eyes.
Band-Aid. And like, yeah, I don't know how you do that though.
I don't either. I don't think he does. So I'm
I just
really,
keep
really
hearing
curious.
Robert Downey Jr. in the back of my head saying, not a good plan.
Not a good plan, exactly.
Not a good plan.
Not good.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad to be reading this with you. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for dealing with me on your sick day. Thank you for getting up early and getting into this spooky story with me. Hopefully we all come back for part 2 feeling a bit better, a little bit more rested.
I think we will. And I think that this is the perfect time for me to hop off because I need to go hack a lung out.
And may everyone else out there also hack a lung out and
Yes.
wait with bated breath as we come back to read the rest of this story. What do we call in this series? I don't know if we have a title for this yet.
Big Hands McGee.
That's what we could certainly call the spirit Big Hands McGee. That's for sure. But I need something like I want to ape like all of the horror movies that it's kind of troping off of. I want to say something along the lines of like, we conjured a sinister coat rack, you know.
I was about to say Pinhead's coat rack.
Yeah, Pinhead's coat rack. We conjuring sinister. What else horror movies have come out recently by Blumhouse that feel like are right in this? You know, we could just call it Blumhouse presents coat rack.
Blumhouse's super fucked up Pinhead coat rack.